Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Welcome to Energy Focus on Leadership Television. My name is Winifred Weber, and I'll be discussing today's topic with the Group Business Editor, Leadership Newspaper, Inse Anthony.
Okay.
Inse, it's a pleasure to have you on the program.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
Yes, the topic for discussion today is need to boost in-country crude refining as NNPC expands downstream operations. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited on Saturday announced the acquisition of OVH Energy Marketing, owner and operator of the Oando branded retail service stations, making it Africa's largest petroleum products retailer. With over 380 Oando stations added to what it had before, stakeholders believe the NNPC should focus on in-country refining of crude if it hopes to maximize this acquisition. So, instead, like we just read out, NNPC Limited is actually extending its frontiers by the acquisition of Oando filling stations. So, what does it portend for Nigeria?
It's a step in the right direction. NNPC wants to ensure that more Nigerians have petroleum products readily at their doorsteps, close by their neighborhoods. And not just for Nigerians, it's also expanding its frontiers to other African countries. With this acquisition, before now, NNPC had over 500 retail outlets scattered around the country. Then with this acquisition, we have seen that that number going to as much as 880 and then still counting. And the company is actually targeting to have up to 1,500 retail outlets in a very short while. So, it's actually good. It will make the petroleum products closer to the people. And, NNPC being the one where most of the other companies have to, they have better availability and they have better pricing. As it may be. So it's a good thing for Nigeria.
It's a good thing. Okay, fine. Now, with this acquisition of these fuel stations, so of what impact will it have on Nigeria's subsidy, given in mind that Nigeria still exports crude and imports refining products at the end of the day? So what impact will it have?
Yes, before we even go to the issue of subsidy, let's even take a look at availability of products. Nigeria has been faced with incessant fuel scarcity. Even as we speak right now, there are queues all around, especially here in Abuja.
And some filling stations have totally shut.
Yes, many filling stations within the city center, they've shut down. And then you have many of the filling stations outside the city center selling at prices that are very high. So it's more like buying at the black market rate for those who are outside the city center, while most of the motorists and users of petroleum products have to queue for long. So that has been an issue, a recurring decimal for Nigeria. And it's something that it's high time. In fact, it is past time that the issue of fuel scarcity was done away with already. So when we look at that NNPC has acquired many filling stations, but we are still having the issue of scarcity. It brings the fact to the front burner that yes, acquisition of stations, having many stations is a good thing. However, the availability of the product in this filling stations is much more important to Nigerians and beneficial for the economy. Then when we now look at it, that Nigeria is still importing. In fact, Nigeria is the only member of the of OPEC that still imports up to, if not 100%, over 90% of its petrol. Other products like diesel, aviation fuel, kerosene, a little quantity of it is produced here by the few modular refineries that we have. But petrol, as we speak, as much as 100% of petrol is imported for consumption. And so it now boils down, will the NNPC continue to import to make supply available in all these filling stations? That is the issue of that analysts are harping on.
Yes, that brings me to the question that I also want to ask now. Does it mean that with this acquisition that NNPC Limited, or what the name, what it wants to be called, does it mean that it prioritize acquiring filling stations to more than tackling the issue of import of fuel, refined products?
Like we've seen, Nigeria has 4 refineries.
Moribund.
Yes, moribund. And these refineries put together has about 450,000 barrels capacity. But for years, for as much as a decade, if not more, these refineries have not brought any refined product into the market. However, so much has been sunk into them for turnaround maintenance. Even as we speak, the NNPC and the Ministry of Petroleum, they are still putting in huge sums of money into this into these refineries. Yet nothing comes out of them. So it's a case of, it's like putting the cart before the horse, if we may say. The issue of refining is there. It's a more present problem in the country. And with the oil energy crisis that we have seen around the globe, Nigeria has been so much affected because of its inability to refine what we consume. So now it appears the NNPC should be much more focused on increasing in-country refining of crude oil rather than acquisition of filling stations.
Yes. And still on NNPC, it recently declared a profit after tax after how many years? 4 years. So what are you prospecting that they should channel those profits to?
Yeah, for the second time in 45 years.
Okay. Second time
in 45 years, NNPC declared a profit. It's a good one. I know they are preparing for listing. The NNPC has been privatized. It has been under the Petroleum Industry Act, has been is now a limited liability company. So which means its shares are no longer, they are kind of autonomous, not really, even though it's still 100% owned by government, but subsequently its shares will be quoted on the stock exchange, so Nigerians and other investors can buy in. So the profit, it's a good one. We don't know where but it's a good place to channel its priority on with the profit it has started to make. No doubt, we've seen the NNPC has invested 20% in Dangote refineries that is coming up. hopefully this quarter. Hopefully
this quarter.
This quarter.
Okay, but some analysts were hoping that maybe next year at most, maybe mid next year.
Yes, we have seen the goalpost shifting.
Yes, now and then.
For a number of times. I think the last one was the 9th time, and it's much been expected.
But I want to ask you, instead, is it that, could it be that because the federal government is kind of waiting for any Dangote refinery to start upstream? Is that why it's trying to play this waiting game, so to speak, without taking that measures to do something about our refineries?
I really do not understand what the problem with fixing those refineries. The problem, because so much monies have been sunk into them. In fact, analysts have looked at it, that the cost that over the years have been put into fixing these moribund refineries, they are more than enough to build fresh refineries from scratch to completion. So why, as Nigeria, the government remain fixated on these refineries that the technology is considered outdated, and that's why they've been finding it very difficult to fix, because the technology, the equipment, most of they are outdated. And while they are sunking in so much money into it, it appears the parts and other things that are required to put them in place doesn't just seem to be there anymore. So why not just abandon rather than continue to pump in money into those things and nothing gets done? And experts are that if these monies were channeled into building new refineries, they would have been completed a long time ago, and they would have been ready, and they would have been with modern facilities, with state-of-the-art technology that will be able to meet the present-day realities and ensure that at the end of the day, Nigerians have this product. So it just, I don't know what to call it. Will I say it is lack of the will, or
that's where I'm just coming to
the lack of will on the part of government to take decisive action on tackling this issue? Or is it that some people are benefiting from the fact that Nigeria still imports, and and that brings us to the issue of the fuel subsidy?
Yes, I'll come to that. But before we come to that, you're talking about this maintenance, the money being allocated for maintenance of Nigeria's refineries, which up to now has not seen the light of the day. Now, I want to ask: is it that can there any group be more powerful than the president? We've had situations like that. Nupeng, a union, who always want to hold government to ransom. But is that enough for federal government not to take decisive actions to take concrete decisions regarding Nigeria's refineries? For instance, we saw during Obasanjo's time, I think during his twilight of his administration, he did privatize the refineries. But when the late Oando came on board, he reverted it. So what is actually happening?
The president.
Anyway, let's go on a break. When we come back, we will be talking more on the issue on today's energy focus. Don't go away. We'll come back after this short break.
sponsorship, and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Welcome back. You're still on to Energy Focus on Money Radio. And with me in the studio is Inse Anthony Uko, the Group Business Editor of Leadership newspaper. My name is Winifred Webo, your host on the program. Before we went on break, we're talking about the issues surrounding Nigeria's refineries and why up to date they have remained comatose and successive governments have continued to budget, allocate money for its maintenance, which unfortunately is not seeing the light of the day. You said you were talking about the issue.
Yes, you asked if the anyone is more powerful than the president.
They are holding the government.
Yes, and I want to say here that the president is actually the Minister of Petroleum.
Yes.
The one in office who oversees things at the ministry is a Minister of State, which is a junior minister. So it shows that it is even the president. The president is saddled with the responsibility of ensuring that the petroleum sector works. So if you have allocated that position to yourself, are you saying that the president is not aware of his responsibility as a minister of state? It goes beyond, bearing the name. It should come with responsibilities. And we have seen this happening with for the past, we are in the twilight of this administration, yes. And the issue has been recurring yet. Nothing has happened.
This democracy, yes. And meanwhile, Nupeng too has always been threatening fire and brimstone, and these are oil workers that have been collecting emoluments over the years, refinery workers, without working for it. Is this one of the conduits of the leakages that we talk about in the government?
There are various leakages. The authorities, the operators, the regulatory authorities, they will always justify the need to keep the staff, to keep the operations going. They will tell you that you can't lay them off because they are fixing the refineries.
They're not refining any crude.
Yes, they are fixing the refineries, so they must be kept on ground so that once the refinery starts working, there will be people who will readily work there. So, and we've had that year on year. But that is not even the issue. The issue there is taking a decisive action on whether those refineries can work, and then abandoning them if they are not working and focus on building new ones. I don't know what the late former President Yar'Adua saw that, but I want to believe there must have been some anomalies with the terms and the conditions of the privatization of the refineries that made him to reverse them. But the thing there is that government has to develop the will to see crude refined in this country. Not only will it benefit Nigeria in terms of availability of the products, it will reduce a lot of the joblessness that we have. And beyond that, Nigeria will be able to save on what it currently pays on subsidy. If it were refining its own product, it doesn't have to subsidize it. We have the crude. If it's refined in country, it can be sold at how it wants to sell it. And then the issue of the scarcity that we have, foreign exchange scarcity that Nigeria has been experiencing, is all as a result of
pressure on
using Nigeria and its major foreign exchange earner as we speak is still crude oil. But by the time you export crude oil, and rather than the earnings being used to boost the foreign exchange, the country's foreign reserves, it is now still being used. The same is being used to import refined products. And what Nigeria currently earns right now as a result of pipeline vandalism and other anomaly with crude within that sector makes what it earns not enough to import. Hence the difference, hence the subsidy that it's paying, which has become a huge economic drain in the country.
Okay, fine. Thank you so much. Before we go, let's look at the issue on subsidy. This acquisition of 380 stations, fuel stations of Oando. So how does it tally with the subsidy that Nigeria is currently undergoing? Not currently, that Nigeria is undergoing, because
those are two different things. Having filling stations are there. If you continue to import petrol to put in those filling stations, then the subsidy will increase. So it's not having any impact in that until Nigeria begins to refine its own product. I know that much hope is hinged on the Dangote refinery that we are expecting a 650,000 barrels capacity refinery. But let's not forget that Dangote is a businessman, and so many investors have sunk their monies into the company, the refinery. Even NNPC has invested 20% in it, and they will want to make profits. So what happens? How is it? We don't know how it's going to translate.
Is Nigeria not building a monopolistic platform for Dangote? But at the end of the day, do you see Nigeria even going out of its way to build its own refineries if Dangote is on come on stream?
But if we look at the way the government-owned refineries have been run, we would say that refining, it's a business, and business is by all means better in the hands of the private sector than in the hands of in government. So no, we are BUA is also planning a 200,000 barrel refinery, which is built to come on stream by 2024. So it's to have more players, more refineries. So right now the NNPC has gone private, or so to speak, away from government monopoly. It should focus its attention on having its own refinery.
Exactly. I think
by the time there are more refineries,
you should be looking at instead of buying.
Like I said, it's good, but if it focuses also on having its own refinery, it will supplying products to those stations will be easier.
Yes,
Nigerians will have more access, and then government will not be burdened with paying subsidy. And at the end of it, Nigerians, the
Yeah,
economy,
job
of
creation.
course, it will create
And
jobs.
don't forget, instead there are so many byproducts of crude.
Of course.
This gelling, these fertilizers, body creams, and what have not.
Even with huge capacity in terms of refining, we also have more. We will not see the issue of scarcity of jet fuel, aviation fuel, kerosene.
Currently, going to each flight is not less than about 70,000 naira.
Of course. In fact, when it
average,
gets, that's on the average. When it gets to the peak period, people have paid up to 150.
Oh yes, it is. Though I was talking off peak.
Yes.
Off peak as from 6:30 p.m. The peak period between 7 to 6 p.m. is 150, 130, 120.
And that shouldn't be. That shouldn't be. But all these are hinged on the high price of aviation fuel mostly. So Nigeria being able to refine its own products will be a huge cost-saving mechanism for government, create jobs in the economy, and save foreign exchange for other things like equipment that still has to be imported.
Okay. Now, going forward, just before we go, when Dangote refinery come on stream, do you still see Nigeria retaining its refinery workers, staff?
Dangote is a private company. So
but this is going to be divesting its crude now to Dangote for refinery. Do you think the staff will still be kept and paid money, humongous amounts of money?
That is that's left for us to see what direction the government will take once the Dangote refinery comes on stream. Don't forget, it's still maintaining that those refineries are being maintained right now, and they are hinging on them coming back on stream. So we just have to keep our fingers crossed to see what happens at the end of the day.
Thank you so much. Well, viewers, this is Well Quality Day on today's Energy Focus, reaching you on Money Radio Leadership Television. With me in the studio has been Anthony Uko, the Group Business Editor of Leadership. My pleasure. And my name is Winifred Ugo. Until we come in with your way again next week's station, I remain Winifred. Bye.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.